Hi, Ann Korinek from Michigan World Organization of China Painters, and I'm here today to show you how to do the baby robin. And this is my baby robin. This is how he turns out. Now, what I'd recommend you do is put this on a plate with a nice border, and when you're all done with it, on the last fire, you can put mother of pearl all the way around the edge, and it really turns out nicely. So here, let me bring it a little closer so you can see this is what the first fire will look like. Alrighty. So some of the things you're going to need, obviously, you're going to need your medium. You're going to need your cleaner for your brush. I use turpentine and Turpenoid Natural. I like that. I sometimes clean my plate by just spraying a little alcohol on the plain plate before I get started, and wiping it off just to make sure there's nothing on there that I didn't expect, like, oil or any of that. And then I get together my brushes. Now, the brushes that I'm going to be using for this, I've got a whole bunch. I have, for the background, I'm going to use my big number 12. It's a filbert. And I like that for the background because it really does a nice soft background. And when you use a filbert for a background, you hold it as far back as you possibly can. And that gives you a nice smooth stroke. And then I have a number of small brushes. I have a little pointer that's a 3-0. I have another pointer that's a 5-0. I have a 1/4-inch brush that I'll be using, and it's a square shader. You can tell that because it's square on top. And I also have this brush, which I really like. It's a little Dresden brush, and it's like a filbert. It has the rounded edges, but I use it for the bird's feathers. And you'll need a wipeout tool. This little Picopay works well for that. And if you don't like the Picopay wipeout tools, you can also get these nice Q-tips with the points on them, and that works really well too. Alrighty. You will need, if you're going to use this, we posted the line drawing for you. So you're going to take your line drawing and you're going to cut it out to fit your plate. And you're going to get some kind of transfer paper. This is Saral, S-A-R-A-L, transfer paper. And one side is darker than the other. You're going to put the dark side down on your piece and tape your little bird over it, and then you're going to trace. Now, it'll come out and everything will be red. And I would say leave it that way. You don't need to add anything to it. But if you have trouble seeing the red, you can use a Sharpie. And you can just outline everything with the Sharpie. Now, the reason I say don't do it unless you have to is because when you're painting, it's easier to see how you've painted if you use the red background. This sometimes interferes and you don't know if you really went up to that line or if the black is the line and you can't really tell. Ultimately on this, I will put the mother of pearl around the edge. That's why I'm not going to paint up to the edge. And colors for today, we're going to be using, now I use Cool Shadow, but you can use baby blue. I like the Cool Shadow for the background just because it's a nice gray blue. That's one of my favorite colors. Black, you won't use much black, so you don't need much. It's just for the eye. I have a rich brown, a moss green, an old gold green, but you can use autumn green. You can use warm brown green. That works just as well. I have white, Copenhagen blue. This is Pompadour, which is a red. I have a light gray. This is silver gray. You could use pearl gray. None of these colors do you have to use exactly the color I use. It's not that important. Yellow brown, this is the light yellow brown. I have old ivory, but any ivory will work. Chartreuse, if you have a yellow green, that's fine. If not, make your yellow green out of moss and yellow. I have mixing yellow, yellow red, auburn, or you can use Meissen. Some people lately have a lot of Meissen, and then warm brown gray. But again, if you don't have these colors, you can mix them. For instance, warm brown gray, you can just take a gray and add some rich brown to it, and that'll make your warm brown gray for you. Okay, now, as you can see on this picture, his pin feathers all go off into the background. So the first thing you want to do is take and paint your background. So I'm going to put you down now and you'll be able to see exactly how we're doing. I'm going to start with my, like I said, my big filbert now. One thing I should caution you is if you have a plate that has holes in the back, make sure that you pay attention to that, because if you put the little bird on the wrong direction, you'll be very disappointed. I've done it a million times. Okay, so I'm cleaning off my brush, getting a little cool shadow, and because I've used the Sharpie on here, you will see that it doesn't, my background design, if I go over it with the blue, doesn't move very much. It does move some because obviously you're going to smear it a little, but it's still there. And that's one of the reasons I kind of like using a Sharpie, but minimally, because you can see it also changes the color of your paint, makes it look a lot darker. If you go over the flowers, don't worry about it. If you go over the bird, don't worry about it, because you can take and use your little Q-tip and clean them up. It's not a problem. Okay, so I'm just slapping the color on, and then I'm going way back on my brush, holding it and kind of going in a crosshatch motion to sort of smooth out the background. And that seems to work for me. Do whatever works for you. Some people like using a C-stroke. The other thing is leave some white space in your background because he's up in the sky. So, you know, if you miss a spot, don't worry about it. Don't forget, this is only the first. This is just your first fire. So you can make a mistake, big deal. If you get around the little bird, that's most important. Make sure you go up under his little feathers and stuff, because you're going to have to pull out his pin feathers. And the only way you can pull them out successfully is if you have the blue behind it, so that way you don't have to try to put the blue behind it later. Now, I'm going all the way up to the margin on here, the border. The reason I'm doing that is because if you stop and you have a semi-open medium, meaning that it dries out the longer you use it, you know, when you're not using it, you're going to want to make sure that you don't stop in the middle, or you'll have a line, and if you try to complete the color. So that I use a semi-open medium. I use the Turpenoid Natural. It dries over a period of time. It takes a while, but because of that, I don't want to, if you stop like this here, you're going to have a line there when you go back. So that's why I'm trying to get all the background on. This little guy came from a card that my grandmother sent me for my birthday. Oh, actually, no, I guess it was to my granddaughter, but this is what the card looked like, just to give you an idea. And I don't know who made the card because the back of it's missing, but it was a cute little study, and I hung on to it because I thought it would work so well on a plate like this. Oops, I gotta be sure I don't get green in. I got my green kind of close here. Okay, so when you get pretty close to being done here, go all the way around, then take a minute and just go through and soften everything. If you have a sponge, you could use the sponge to soften it. If you have a silk, you could use a silk to soften it. But you don't want to make it like totally soft, because these are supposed to have a cloudy appearance in the background. So I just get it so that I'm happy with it. Okay, that's good. I think I'm going to use this little brush. It's a little Dresden brush. I like it because it kind of imitates feathers. But before I do that, I'm going to take a Q-tip, and I'm going to go around and make sure I clean out anywhere that I got the color, like on the flower, on the leaf, because you really want to make sure these, especially these, this is going to be a white wild rose. You want to make sure that it doesn't have a lot of blue on it, or it won't look right. You may have to flip your Q-tip as you're doing this. There we go. Get his little head up here. Get his little feathers, okay, and down in here. Okay. I have, yeah, old ivory, and I'm just going to put it around his eye. And then I'm going to take some and put it on the middle of his wing. These are the highlights. I'm putting them in first because I want to make sure that he has nice highlights. I'm not going to do anything on his little chest there because when I put the color in, well, maybe I will. I'll put a little down here. But when I put the color in, I'm going to leave it white up at the top so that we have a nice white, bright spot. And then down the road, I might put some white paint over it. Okay, now the next color I'm going to use, and I'm still using the same brush, is I'm going to go into my light brown. In my case, it's like an auburn or a meissen, whatever you have. And I'm going to start with the little feathers. And I'm going to start at the end of his wing and just flip up. And I might mix a little bit of the rich brown with the meissen and just sort of flip up. There we go. And you're just going to come down both on the front and the top, the breast side and the top side of the little bird, and put in the feathers. Now this is just the first coat, so if you get them, come here, there we go. If you get them and they're not exactly the way you want them, in the next coat you can adjust them. The only thing I would suggest though is where they flip up at the back, you may want to take a Q-tip and just go in and make sure that you have a little highlight on them. Then I'm going to take the light brown and I'm going to start going around his little head. And I'm going to pull from the eye out towards the outside because you want to give him these little pin feathers. Or you could pull from the outside in, whatever works for you. I'm going to get a smaller brush. Here we go. Got this little tiny small brush that I use. It's a square shader, and I'm just going to use the side of it. Now, if you don't have a Dresden brush, you can use the side of a small square shader, and it will do exactly the same thing that my Dresden brush did. And just pull him gently out because you want a little bit of his feathers to go out into the background. There we go. Turn your plate as you work around his face. And try to get it smooth. Try not to get like lines in his face. And then get your smallest brush, whatever that is. For me, it's a 5-0 brush. Dip it in black. And when I dip it in black, I take and I roll the little brush in the black just so it's nice and even. And I pull as I come out because I don't want any clumps on the brush because I'm going to do his eye. Now for his little eye, you can see from the study I have here, you want a little circle in the middle with a little open eye, and then you're just going to pull a little bit on the sides to give him a little shape to his eye. So let's take and I don't want to put my arm in all of this. We're going to do one side of the eye. You have to be real careful with this. Make sure you got enough paint on your brush. It's probably the hardest thing. And you're going to do one side of his eye and the other side of his eye. There you go. And then you can do a little bit of you can pull a little bit away from the eye if you want. You can also adjust it with a Q-tip if you need to. Okay, and for his mouth, going back to my little square shader, it's a 2. I'm going to take a little bit of pompadour, and I'm going to put it in his mouth here. Clean my brush, and then I'm going to take yellow brown and just do his little, what would be like a beak. The beak, it's a V. You want to do that with the brown. Okay, now let me come down here on him with my, back to my Dresden brush. I'm going to come back here, just pull out his little feathers a little bit. There we go. Take a yellow, red side load, turn my plate upside down, and starting at the bottom of his chest, I'm going to start pulling it up and letting it fade out as it comes up towards the top of his chest. There we go. Underneath his wing, I'm going to let it come all the way up. And the way you can get it to fade out is lift as you go and also turn the brush a little bit just so the color doesn't follow you all the way up. And then you can go back, clean off your brush, just pat it out or use a little turpentine, then put a little Turpenoid Natural on it. Now we're going to take some chartreuse and just do the leaves that are up by him there. Let's get some chartreuse. Do these leaves, the little tiny leaves. And then we're going to switch over to our 1/4" brush. And I'm going to take a side load of chartreuse, a side load of old gold green. And I'm going to just do the side that's shaded of the flowers. So I'm going to get a little gold green on here. You can use, if you don't have gold green, you can use brown green. There we go. And you're just going to shade one side of the petal. So for me, it'll be the left side when I'm facing the petal. I'm going to do this one too. Oops, need a little more oil. If it starts dragging on you, you need some oil. There we go. A little more oil here. There. And a little more oil here. And as you get to the center here, you're going to want to just pull down towards the center. That'll give you kind of a, have the color collect at that point. Now, then I'm going to go back and just put a little bit of that color at the top, especially out here where I have the blue, so I don't lose the edge of the leaf, or the petal rather, in here. Okay. Now I'm going to take a moss green with a side load of the old gold green, and I'm going to start working on my leaves. And for those, oops, it's kind of heavy on me. I'm going to start at the outer edge, come to the middle like this, then start in the middle and come across like this to the far end. That gives me the design at the top. And then I'm going to flip it back, turn it around so it's up, the opposite direction, and I'm going to come down this side and just do the edge. That will give you an instant highlight every time. That's why I love doing it that way. Always works. Same thing over here. Here's a leaf. I'm going to go, oops, again, got that too dark. I'm going to pull it to the middle, stop, then pull down the middle a little bit just to make that middle vein and stop. You can make other veins by just tapping in if you need to. Okay, then I'm going to flip it around and we'll do the edge. The very end, I'm going to reload the dark and just do the very end. And you have a highlight. think putting highlights on leaves are one of the hardest things to do. Okay, and we have one more leaf, and it's over here. Now, if you've left a border on your plate, the nice thing about it is you can turn the plate without getting your hand in everything. And then I'm going to come down here like this. There. All right, now this is also, this little guy here, this is also one of the white flowers. So you're going to put a little color on it. And I'm going to put a little color on this side here too. There we go. And a little there. Okay. And this guy up here is also one of the little flowers. So first let's do the leaves and just color them in. You don't need to do anything fancy. And then you're going to do the same thing. You're going to do just one side of the petal and the bottom of the petal where it meets the base, the middle of the flower. Oops. Let me wipe this out up here. I want that white. Okay. And then the final flower that we have over on this side. Okay. We're going to do in a pink. So we're going to take a little pompadour and just do the top of it. Do the top of it, do the top of it there. Otherwise, you'll lose it to the background. And then I'm going to do down the one side to the base. There we go. And you have two small green leaves up there. You're going to just paint them in green now. And then on the second fire, you can add a little more detail to them. Okay, so the only thing we have left are the centers. Okay, now for the centers, I'm going to take, I have a pointer. It's a, I don't know, I think it's a 3-0 pointer. And I'm just going to get some yellow on my pointer. And I'm just going to do dots in the center of the flower with yellow. And just fill up the center with dots. There we go. Of all the flowers here. I'm going to clean that. And then I'm going to go into my white. And this is where I say white really does show up. If you make little dots, they will come up out as little dots when you fire. And here, let me hold this up so you can see. Itty bitty little dots. That's how you get them. You dip into the white like this. Just dip right into your white. Get it on the end. And then go back and dip, 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 dip there. And that's all you're going to do this time. Now I'm going to take and use my Q-tip and just make sure that my little guy has, I'm going to pull them in so that they look like little pin feathers, separate them out. There, that's better. And do it here so I don't have clunky ones. I want little ones. That's good. And then I'm going to look at the flower and make sure that I've got highlights where I want it. And if not, I'm going to wipe them out with my Q-tip. The rest is pretty good. Then we have the stems to do. There's a stem here, here, and here. Take my rich brown, put it on my little pointer. For this one, I'm going to pull it out like this. I'm going to kind of sketch it out. And then I'm going to, oops, hang on. I want to make little thorns by just holding it and pulling it out. Lift as you go, and we'll make it nice. If it's not real dark on this one, don't worry about it. Next time you can fix it. There's one right back in here too. There we go. And then for the others, they're done with the old gold. And these are just stems. And you're just gonna, and that's your first fire. It doesn't take very long. So with the second fire, all you would do, and I'll just show you briefly, just so you kind of get an idea, is you would take and put your color back on if you need to, wherever you need to do it, like maybe here. Also, you can use a little bit of Copenhagen if you want to put in a little bit of a shadow on the second fire. You could even do that on the first fire if you wanted. So if your light's coming from, say you want it coming from the top left across, then you're going to use your Copenhagen maybe on this side of the bird. Oh, it's a little dark. There we go. And you're going to use your Copenhagen on this side of the flower. And I'm just putting it on. You can also use the Copenhagen if you need to put a little bit of shading in. Okay, so I got that. Then I'm going to go back and do just the light blue. And you would do that all over. And I'm not going to take time now to do it all over because we did it once. You know how I paint with light blue. Make sure, though, that you go down and separate the petals of the flower if you need to. Sometimes when you fire, you didn't put the dark color in there, you don't see it. And go all the way out to the edge. So, okay, that gives you an idea there. Let me go around this little guy a bit. Okay. Okay. So that just gives you an idea, but obviously you would carry this color all the way to the edge. Now for the little bird, on the second fire, I used my 1/4" brush because I just think it does a better job. I use the side of it, and I just start going in like this and doing his color, just like I did the first time. But if you use the 1/4" brush, you're going to see you get a softer feel than you did the first time. Just go around him, flip your brush, and just come out to the edge because you want to still have those little tiny pin feathers coming out because he's just a baby. Okay. I'm going to take and use my smaller brush now and just push it. I've got a little ivory on it, and I'm just going to push out the ivory a little bit just so it's not so harsh around his eye. Go back down here and mix in a little rich brown and do start pulling out his little feathers here. And now you can start adding a little curl to them if you want. Just move your brush. I'm using rich brown, and I'm just pulling down and then curling as I go down to the very edge. Up. There we go. There we go. And I might want to come more down in here. And I'm going to put a little more dark up in here. Just a little, not a lot. The more dark you add, the more you'll get used to having it be darker than it was. At first it looks a little odd, but then you realize, nope, you need the darkness. Oh, not that much. There we go. And just keep flipping it. Flip it one way, pull it out, flip it another way, pull it in, until you get it just the way you want it around his little face. And you're going to do his mouth again. Oh, a little bit of pompadour. And you're going to do his little breast again, his chest with pompadour, yellow red rather. So a side load of yellow red and pull up from the bottom. Go right over the flower. It doesn't matter right now. All you're trying to do is get this little bird right. You can always take it off with a Q-tip. There we go. There's also a little bit of a brown right under his little chin. It kind of comes out. Oops. Here we go. There we go. Okay. And then we're going to do his little beak. And I'm going to pick a yellow brown now to do for his little beak because the yellow didn't really show up. So there's a yellow brown and there's a yellow brown. And then I'm going to take my fine little itty bitty 5/0 and I'm just going to put a little line to separate here and right here. And then I'll do it down here and up here. And that'll help define his mouth a little better. And then you'll just go back over and use your Q-tip to clean out these flowers. And I probably would want a little bit darker green on here. So I might take my old gold green and mix it with just a tad of brown to sort of give me a little more color on these, or blue. You could use the Copenhagen blue to give me a little more color on these leaves. And I take my old gold green with a little bit of brown, and I think it'll change the color a little bit and it'll help you get a little depth in there. And along the side here. You could also use a darkest green if you'd rather, or a shading green. The colors are up to you. There we go. And then we'll do this one here, this one too, and there. And then tap in at this point, you need to tap in your veins. And by tap, I mean just take your brush, it's already got the brown on it, and really just tap there and you'll see the vein just appear. Gladys Bug taught me that. Okay. Now there's you can use old gold green. You could even mix a little bit of yellow brown in it if you want for the flowers, just to give them a little more color. I'm also using medium green and a little yellow brown. You can do that. You can do any colors you want. You can add a little blue if you think that's going to help you. And then for your center, this time, go back and do yellow brown. And now I've done yellow brown in the center. I'm going to do a little bit of the dark green. That'll give me a little more color. And I'm also going to put the little bit of dark green around the edge to sort of, I mean, this is the antique green, to separate those leaves a little. I'm just dotting it. You don't have to do anything fancy. And then I've got my Picope, and I can pull from the middle out, and that'll give me a little bit of color there. Now, if you don't see, like here, I don't see the edge of the leaf. What you can do is take your 5-0, dip it in just a little green, and just kind of gently outline it. And that'll do it. You could use your pen too if you're better with your pen. I'm not. I'm going to use antique green because I can't get it dark enough. There we go. There we go. And put back in your little thorns, at least at the base of the thorn. I've always been told you kind of wiggle and then pull. Wiggle and then pull. And that gives you your thorns. Now, I'm going to take a little bit of yellow red and put in the center of my flower as well. I'm just doing that to give it a little more color. I'm just using it as dots. You don't have to do this, but if you want to tie in some of the colors you've used, in this, that's another way to do it. I did 3 fires the first time I did this. And I went in with my little brush like this on the final fire and just sort of added some highlight. And I liked that because it gave it more of I got a little depth in there. And then I also put the mother of pearl around the edge. And before I finish that first fire that I did, I don't want to forget to take my Q-tip and run it around the edge so that the paint does not go up into the border, so I can put that mother of pearl there and it won't interfere with the paint. So I'm just running it around the edge. Make sure you clean your border if you've got one. Okay, let me bring you back up. Okay, swipe left. Okay, alrighty then. This is the way my final fire for the first fire turned out. And eventually I will fire this, and then I will put the second fire on. The second fire you can see is going to be a little darker. And if you want to go darker than that, you can. You might want to make the background even darker than that by using baby blue. So it's entirely up to you. So thanks for tuning in. Michigan World Organization of China Painters. We're always looking for new members. If you're interested, message us on this channel. And let us know, and we'll be in touch with you and tell you what you need to do in order to join the group. In the meantime, pick up your brushes and keep painting. Bye-bye.